Listen to me. Too many of you are waiting for somebody else to clap for you, to tell you that you're good enough to approve your dreams. But if you're original, if you're authentic, you don't need validation. The world didn't validate the greats when they started. They validated themselves through action, through work, through consistency. If you want to be great, stop begging for likes, stop waiting for permission, and start walking in your gift. Originals don't wait for validation, they create it. You were born original, don't die a copy. When you came into this world, there was nobody else like you. Your fingerprints, your voice, your mind, your heart, all one of one. But somewhere along the line, you started to trade originality for acceptance. You started to trade who you were for who people wanted you to be. And I'm here to tell you, that's the biggest mistake you can make, because you'll never reach your full potential living as a watered-down version of yourself. The problem is, many of us don't even realize we've been conditioned to copy. From the moment you step into school, from the moment you get on social media, you're bombarded with messages of who you should be, how you should look, how you should act, what success should mean. And if you're not careful, you end up chasing someone else's vision while ignoring your own. Originals create lanes, copies follow them. Originals set the trend, copies chase it. Originals are remembered, copies are forgotten. When you were born, there was a divine assignment attached to your name. There was something that only you could bring to the table. But if you keep trying to be like everybody else, the world will miss the gift it was supposed to receive from you. Think about it. If Steve Jobs had tried to be like Bill Gates, there would be no Apple. If Michael Jordan tried to play like somebody else, he wouldn't have become the greatest to ever touch a basketball. If Oprah tried to copy another talk show host, she wouldn't have built a media empire that touched millions. The reason they were great wasn't because they copied. It's because they owned who they were and maximized it. But too many of you want shortcuts. You see what somebody else is doing, and you think if you copy the formula, you'll get the same results. But let me tell you something, copying the outside without understanding the inside won't get you anywhere. You can wear the same clothes, you can talk the same way, you can post the same content, but if it's not authentically you, it won't carry the same weight. People feel authenticity. They know when it's real and they know when it's fake. And when you're fake, the most you'll get is temporary attention, but you'll never get lasting impact. When you die, people won't remember the version of you that copied everybody else. They'll remember the version of you that was different. The question is, will they even get to see that version? Or will you bury it because you were too afraid of being judged? Originals are not afraid of standing alone. Originals are not afraid of being laughed at. Originals are not afraid of being misunderstood because they know that being different is the price of being great. Too many of you want to be accepted by everyone, and in the process, you lose yourself. You're so busy trying to blend in that you disappear. I need you to understand something. Greatness and comfort don't live in the same house. If you want to be original, if you want to walk in your gift, you have to be willing to step away from the crowd. You have to be willing to risk not fitting in. That's the cost of originality. Look at history. Every revolutionary was called crazy before they were called genius. Every visionary was doubted before they were celebrated. Every innovator was resisted before they were embraced. That's the process. You cannot be original and expect instant approval. But if you can withstand the rejection, if you can survive being underestimated, if you can outlast being ignored, you'll eventually be recognized for the value only you could bring. The reason many never reach their potential is because they give up on themselves the moment others don't validate them. You're looking for applause before you even put in the work. You want people to cheer for you when you barely start. But originals don't wait for applause. They clap for themselves. They wake up every day, they grind, they execute, and they let the results be the validation. You don't have to explain yourself when the fruit is there. You don't have to argue with people about your worth when your results are undeniable. The copycats may get quick attention, but the originals get lasting legacy. And don't get it twisted. Being original doesn't mean you can't learn from others. It doesn't mean you can't be inspired. It means you take what you've learned and you filter it through your own voice, your own vision, your own perspective. You remix it with your story, your struggle, your truth. That's what makes it powerful. Because people don't connect to perfection. They connect to authenticity. And authenticity only comes when you stop pretending to be someone you're not. Ask yourself, how much of your life is truly yours? How many of your choices are based on what you actually want versus what you think will impress somebody else? How much time have you wasted trying to fit into a mold that was never designed for you? Some of you are in jobs you hate. Some of you are in jobs you hate because you were copying somebody else's definition of success. Some of you are in relationships that drain you because you wanted to look like you had it all together on the outside. Some of you are posting things online that have nothing to do with who you are, just to keep up with a trend. And all the while, the real you is suffocating. You don't need permission to be you. You don't need a certificate to be you. You don't need approval to be you. What you need is courage. The courage to step out. The courage to risk being misunderstood. The courage to be consistent even when nobody notices. The courage to keep pushing when nobody claps. That's what separates originals from copies. Copies only move when somebody tells them they're good enough. Originals move because they know they were born enough. I dare you to stop living your life like a photocopy. A photocopy never looks as sharp as the original. The colors fade. The lines blur. The details get lost. Every time you copy, you lose a little bit of yourself. But when you live original, you bring clarity, you bring vibrancy, you bring impact. The world doesn't need another version of somebody else. It needs the full version of you. The reason you feel restless, the reason you feel unfulfilled is because deep down, you know you were meant for more than imitation. You were meant to create, to innovate, to inspire. Don't die with your originality still locked inside you. Don't take your gift to the grave because you were too scared of what people might think. The cemetery is already full of unused potential, of unwritten books, of unsung songs, of undiscovered inventions, of dreams that never came to life. Don't add your originality to that graveyard. Live it, express it, walk in it. Even if people don't understand you now, they'll thank you later. Even if they laugh at you now, they'll quote you later. Even if they ignore you now, they'll remember you later. You were born original. Act like it. Talk like it. Walk like it. Stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be you. Stop dimming your light because others can't handle the brightness. Stop shrinking yourself because others feel uncomfortable with your size. You weren't created to blend in. You were created to stand out. And the day you decide to embrace your originality is the day you start living the life you were designed to live. So the question is not whether you have originality, you do. The question is, will you honor it or will you bury it? Will you cultivate it or will you copy, baby? Or will you copy? Will you live your life as an original or will you settle for being a duplicate? Originals make history. Copies get forgotten. The choice is yours. Validation is a trap. Every time you live your life waiting for somebody to tell you you're good enough, you're putting your destiny in their hands. Think about that for a second. Your future, your calling, your gift, your potential, all of it hanging on the fragile thread of somebody else's opinion. That's not living. That's being enslaved to approval. The truth is, most people don't even know what they want for themselves. So how can they know what's best for you? Yet here you are, delaying your dreams, watering down your greatness, slowing your progress, all because you're waiting for somebody to clap for you. Validation feels good, but it's dangerous because once you get hooked on it, you can't move without it. It's like a drug. The first time someone tells you, wow, that's amazing, you feel high. When somebody likes your post, you feel alive. When they tell you you're talented, you feel worthy. But the moment they don't say anything, the moment they don't clap, the moment they don't notice, you crash. And then you start doubting yourself, not because you've lost your gift, not because your potential disappeared, but because nobody said anything this time. That's the trap. That's the trap. You're chasing external confirmation instead of internal conviction. Listen to me. People are fickle. They cheer for you today, and they'll boo you tomorrow. They'll praise you when you're up, and they'll ghost you when you're down. If your self-worth is built on their applause, you'll be riding a roller coaster your entire life. Originals don't operate like that. Originals don't wait for people to validate them. They validate themselves. They wake up in the morning and they tell themselves, I'm enough. I'm capable. I'm gifted. They don't need the world to co-sign their purpose because they understand their purpose came from a higher place. Look around. The greats didn't wait for validation. Nobody told Muhammad Ali he was the greatest before he said himself. Nobody told Martin Luther King Jr. his dream was possible before he stood on a podium and declared it. Nobody told Elon Musk his vision was realistic before he risked everything to build it. They didn't wait for approval. They moved because they believed. Validation is a trap because it makes you think you can't start until somebody approves you. And the longer you wait, the more time you waste. Some of you are sitting on books that will never be written because you're waiting for someone to tell you you're a writer. Some of you are sitting on businesses that will never launch because you're waiting for someone to say you're an entrepreneur. Some of you are sitting on gifts that will never see daylight because you're waiting for likes, waiting for shares, waiting for claps, waiting for claps. Let me free you. You don't need validation to start. You need discipline. You don't need validation to continue. You need consistency. You don't need validation to finish. You need perseverance. You need perseverance. When you seek validation, you give people the power to control your pace. You run when they cheer, and you stop when they're silent. But what happens when the people you're waiting on Marva show up? What happens when the people you thought would support you don't? What happens when the people you expected to clap are the very ones who criticize you? If you're hooked on validation, that's the end of your journey. But if you're rooted in conviction, that's just noise. Let me be clear. Validation is not always negative. Encouragement is a beautiful thing, and we all need it from time to time. But the trap is when you depend on it. Encouragement should be a bonus, not the foundation. If you can only move when someone else tells you you're good, you're trapped. True power is when you can move in silence, when you can grind without recognition, when you can believe in yourself, even when nobody else does. Think about an oak tree. When it's just a seed, nobody notices. When it first sprouts, it looks fragile, insignificant. People can step on it, laugh at it, ignore it. But that seed doesn't need validation. It doesn't need anyone to say, you can be a tree, just grow. It just grows. It pushes roots deep into the ground. It stretches upward toward the sun. And one day it becomes something so big, so undeniable that people can't ignore it. That's what happens when you stop chasing validation and start chasing growth. The problem with validation is that it's temporary. You can do something incredible today and people will cheer, but tomorrow they'll forget. You can break a record today and people will celebrate, but next week they'll move on. If your fuel is their validation, you'll keep running out of gas. Originals fuel themselves with vision. They don't need the crowd to believe because they believe. They don't need people to clap because they clap for themselves. They don't need people to tell them they're worthy because they already know they are. Some of you have been paralyzed for years because you didn't get the validation you were looking for. You didn't get the job offer, so you gave up. You didn't get enough likes, so you deleted the post. You didn't get the approval from your parents, so you abandoned your dream. But let me ask you, who gave them that much power over your life? Who told you their opinion was the key to your future? The only validation you truly need is the validation you give yourself. And let's be real. Some people will never validate you, no matter what you do. Not because you're not good enough, but because they're threatened by your originality. They see your gift, they see your light, and instead of clapping, they criticize. Instead of encouraging, they downplay. If you're waiting for validation from those people, you'll be waiting forever. You don't need them. You don't need their cosign. You don't need their stamp of approval. What you need is to lock in on your vision and execute with or without them. Think about this. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every revolution in history was met with doubt at first. The Wright brothers were told humans would never fly. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. If they had waited for validation, they would have died with their dreams. But because they moved without it, because they trusted their conviction, they made history. That's the difference. So here's the challenge. Stop chasing validation. Stop checking your phone every 5 minutes to see how many people approved of you. Stop adjusting your dream to fit other people's comfort zones. Stop silencing yourself because they don't clap loud enough. Live your life in such a way that your work speaks for itself. Let your consistency, your discipline, your excellence be the validation. At the end of the day, validation is a trap because it keeps small, it keeps you dependent, It keeps you from stepping fully into your power. Originals break free. Originals know their worth. Originals understand that applause is nice, but it's not necessary. They don't wait for people to crown them because they already know they're kings and queens. They don't wait for people to declare them great because they live greatness daily. If you really want to walk in your calling, if you really want to maximize your gift, you've got to break free from the trap. Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I am enough. I am capable. I'm original. I don't need their approval to move forward. I don't need their validation to succeed. Once you internalize that, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not fueled by applause, you're fueled by purpose. You're not driven by attention, you're driven by conviction. And that's the kind of fuel that doesn't run out. You don't need validation. You don't need likes. You don't need claps. You don't need permission. You need belief. You need discipline. You need consistency. You need courage. That's how originals win. That's how originals last. That's how originals leave a legacy that no validation can ever touch. Your vision won't make sense to everyone, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Stop expecting people to understand what was never revealed to them. Stop waiting for them to co-sign a dream that was placed in your heart, not theirs. Too many of you are delaying greatness because you keep explaining, keep defending, keep trying to convince people of something they were never meant to see. Listen to me. Vision is personal. It's custom. It's tailor-made. God didn't send your vision in a group text. He gave it to you directly because you're the one responsible for bringing it to life. So the moment you expect everybody else to get it, you've already lost. Think about Noah. He was building an ark before a drop of rain had ever fallen. Do you think his neighbors understood? You think people were cheering him on while he was hammering wood day after day? No, they laughed. They ridiculed. They called him crazy. Why? Because his vision wasn't their vision. His assignment wasn't their assignment, wasn't their assignment. And if he had stopped because they didn't understand, the world would have drowned. That's what I mean when I say your vision won't make sense to everyone. Some people will laugh at you. Some people will doubt you. Some people will even discourage you. But it's not because the vision is wrong. It's because it wasn't given to them. See, the problem is you keep looking for validation from people who weren't in the room when the vision was revealed. You keep asking people who've never seen what you saw to give you permission to move forward. That's like asking a blind man to describe the sunrise. They can't, because it wasn't given to them. And that's where many of you get stuck. You share your vision with small-minded people. And when they don't see it, you shrink it. When they don't understand it, you abandon it. But just because they can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Just because they don't understand doesn't mean it won't happen. Your vision is like a seed. When it's first planted, nobody sees it. People walk past it, step on the dirt, ignore it. But just because they can't see the roots grow underground doesn't mean the seed isn't alive. In time, that seed will break through the surface and then everyone will see what you already knew. That's how vision works. It shows up in you first, long before anyone else recognizes it. But if you give up because they don't see what you see, that seed will never grow. Let me tell you, greatness always looks foolish in the beginning. Think about the Wright brothers talking about flying through the sky in the machine. People laugh. Think about Thomas Edison making hundreds of attempts to create the light bulb. People doubted. Think about Oprah getting fired from her first television job because they said she wasn't fit for TV. People rejected. But guess what? They kept going because originals understand that vision doesn't require consensus. Vision requires commitment. Some of you are wasting time trying to convince people who have no interest in supporting you. You're pouring energy into explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And the truth is, some people will never get it. Not because they're evil, not because they hate you, but because your vision is bigger than their imagination. And that's okay. Stop expecting small minds to grasp big dreams. Stop expecting limited thinkers to understand limitless possibility. Stop trying to bring everybody along, because some people are not assigned to your journey. The danger of expecting everyone to understand is that you water down your vision until it becomes acceptable. You start shrinking it so it doesn't look too radical, so it doesn't scare people, so it doesn't make others uncomfortable. And in doing so, you strip the vision of its power. Big visions are supposed to scare people. Big visions are supposed to confuse people. Big visions are supposed to sound crazy until they come true. That's what makes them visions, not ordinary plans. Think about your own life. How many times have you stopped because somebody didn't understand? How many times have you doubted yourself because somebody close to you didn't believe? How many times have you walked away from something because people called it unrealistic? Let me tell you something. The greatest ideas, the greatest movements, the greatest innovation were all called unrealistic before they were called genius. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is simple. The originals kept moving even when nobody understood. Your vision doesn't need a cheerleading squad. It doesn't need mass approval. It doesn't need mass approval. It doesn't need everyone to clap. It just needs you. Your belief, your work, your consistency. That's it. When you execute, when you show up day after day, eventually the same people who doubted you have no choice but to respect you. They don't need to understand it. They'll see the results. They don't need to agree with it. They'll witness the fruit. But that only happens if you don't quit. I know it's tough. It hurts when the people closest to you don't get it. When your family tells you to get a real job. When your friends laugh at your ideas. When your teacher, your bosses, your peers look at you like you're crazy, it stings. But listen to me, they don't have to get it. You weren't called to convince them. You were called to execute. You were called to manifest. You were called to take that vision from idea to reality. And when you do, those same people who doubted you will say, I knew you could do it. That's the irony. They'll celebrate the fruit even though they rejected the seed. Your responsibility is not to be understood. Your responsibility is to be obedient to the vision. When you wake up, you don't need to ask, do they get it? You need to ask, am I working toward it? When you go to bed at night, you don't need to ask, they believe in me. You need to ask, did I make progress today? That's the mindset of originals. Originals are not distracted by who understands. They're focused on execution. Let me be real with you. If your vision makes perfect sense to everyone around you, it's probably too small. If nobody's questioning it, if nobody's doubting it, if nobody's calling it crazy, then you're not dreaming big enough. Big visions always sound impossible until somebody does it. So if people don't understand you right now, that's a good sign. It means you're on the right track. It means you're thinking beyond the ordinary. It means you're moving in originality. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop defending. Stop wasting energy trying to convince people who were never meant to carry your vision. Put that energy into building, into creating, into executing. The world doesn't need more explanations. It needs more examples. When you live your vision, when you bring it to life, the results will speak louder than any words ever could. You don't have to explain a skyscraper when it's standing tall in front of everyone. You don't have to convince people of a bridge when they're driving across it. Build it, and the vision will explain itself. Your vision won't make sense to everyone, and that's okay. It doesn't need to. It wasn't supposed to. Originals understand that being misunderstood is part of the price of greatness. So stop delaying, stop doubting, stop shrinking. Believe in what you've been shown. Trust the process and walk it out. And remember, one day the same people who said you were crazy will be the ones telling your story. When you begin to live authentically, when you finally make the decision to stop seeking validation from the outside world and start walking in the truth of who you are, you discover a power that most people never tap into. The fifth key note, self-belief is the ultimate validation. It's not just a motivational phrase. It is a foundational principle for building a life of impact, confidence, and purpose. Too often, we hand over the authority to define our worth to people who don't even understand our journey. We ask for approval from friends who haven't seen our grind, from family who may not see our vision, from society that judges us by trends and standards that shift every other day. But the truth is, validation that comes from outside is always temporary. It lasts for a moment, maybe for a season, but it will eventually fade. If your sense of worth is built on the claps and cheers of others, then the silence will destroy you. If your confidence is tied to the number of likes, followers, or applause, then the moment people turn away, you will feel empty. But when your validation comes from self-belief, when you anchor yourself in the unshakable conviction that you are enough, that you are capable, and that your dreams are worthy, you no longer crumble when the world stays quiet. Think about some of the greatest innovators, leaders, and visionaries in history. They weren't validated at the beginning. Steve Jobs was told he was crazy for believing in personal computers. Oprah Winfrey was told she didn't have the right look or voice for television. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job because he was told he lacked creativity. J.K. Rowling was rejected by dozens of publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. None of them waited for validation. If they had, their ideas would have been buried. What carried them through the criticism, the rejection, the loneliness was self-belief. They didn't need the world to stamp them with approval before they pursued their dream. They validated themselves through their persistence and vision. That's the kind of validation you need because it's eternal, not temporary. When people ignore you, it doesn't vanish when times get tough. It's inside of you and no one can take it away. Self-belief is not arrogance. A lot of people confuse confidence with pride. Arrogance says, I'm better than everyone else. Self-belief says, I'm enough as I am. And I have what it takes to grow into the best version of myself. One comes from comparison, the other comes from authenticity. When you believe in yourself, you don't need to diminish others to shine. You don't need to prove your worthiness by stepping on someone else. Instead, you radiate a quiet strength that attracts the right opportunities and people into your life. Your energy becomes undeniable because you're not chasing applause. You're rooted in purpose. But here's the challenge. Self-belief is not always natural. It's something you have to cultivate. Life will test you, and people will doubt you. Sometimes the loudest doubter will be your own inner voice. That's why building self-belief is like building muscle. It requires daily discipline. You have to feed your mind with the right thoughts. You have to surround yourself with people who will remind you of your greatness, not just your flaws. You have to revisit your vision again and again until it etches into your heart so deeply that no criticism can erase it. And most importantly, you have to keep showing up for yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's waking up early, staying disciplined, or pushing through fear, you reinforce your self-belief. You prove to yourself that you can trust you. That trust becomes your foundation. Validation from the outside world is unpredictable. Today they love you, tomorrow they forget you. But self-belief creates consistency. It allows you to keep going when applause fades, when the crowd disperses, when doors close. It whispers to you, you got this, when no one else is speaking encouragement. It reminds you of your worth when you're in a room full of people who underestimate you. It pushes you to take risks, to step out of your comfort zone, to pursue dreams that others call impossible. Because once you truly believe in yourself, rejection no longer feels like a dead end. It feels like redirection. Failure no longer feels final. It becomes feedback. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for someone else to say, you're good enough. But the tragedy is, some never hear it. Does that mean they weren't good enough? Absolutely not. It just means they gave too much power to external validation. The truth is, you have to be the one to look in the mirror and say, I am worthy. I am talented. I am capable. I am capable. That declaration spoken from within carries more weight than 1,000 compliments from others. Because if you don't believe in you, even their compliments will feel empty. But if you do believe in you, their silence won't shake you. This is why self-belief is freedom. It liberates you from the constant need to impress, to fit in, to seek approval. It gives you the courage to be authentic, to stand out, to live according to your values instead of bending to the expectations of others. When you operate from self-belief, you stop chasing people who don't see your worth. You stop begging for opportunities from those who underestimate you. Instead, you create opportunities. You attract people who align with your vision. You stand tall, even when standing alone. Now, cultivating self-belief doesn't mean you'll never struggle with doubt again. Doubt is part of being human. But the difference is, when you build deep self-belief, doubt becomes a passing visitor instead of a permanent resident. It might knock at your door, but it doesn't control your house. Self-belief tells doubt, thou or not the landlord here. You don't get to decide how I live, how I dream, how I pursue my calling. The most powerful validation you'll ever receive doesn't come in the form of likes, awards, or applause. It comes from the quiet confidence that lives in your heart. It's the unshakable conviction that you are equipped for the journey ahead, no matter who believes in you or who doesn't. When you understand this, you realize you've already been validated by something far greater than people. Your existence, your uniqueness, your purpose. You didn't come into this world by accident, and you weren't given your gifts by mistake. So why wait for someone else to validate what was already destined in you? The world is waiting for originals. People who don't just mimic trends, but set them. People who don't just seek acceptance, but create new paths. And the only way to walk that path is to anchor yourself in self-belief. It's the ultimate validation because it comes from the inside out. When you believe in yourself, you stop being shaken by the storms of opinion, by the rejection of others, by the fleeting trends of society. You become a rock, unshakable, grounded in purpose, and unstoppable in pursuit. So, stop waiting for others to clap before you stop moving. Stop waiting for someone to crown you before you step into your power. The crown is already on your head. You just have to wear it. The only validation you need is the belief that you are enough right here, right now. And once you truly embrace that, the world won't just validate you. It'll have no choice but to respect the force you become. When you understand that being original means standing firmly in your identity and not bending to the expectations of others, you begin to see that authenticity is not just a nice trait to have. It is a requirement for growth, fulfillment, and influence. So many people go through life trying to wear masks, trying to become what others expect them to be, because they are scared of rejection or judgment. But here's the reality. Every time you put on a mask, every time you dim your light to make others comfortable, you kill a part of yourself. You silence your true voice. You distance yourself from your calling. The truth is, authenticity is power. It is courage. It's freedom. When you dare to be authentic, you break free from the chains of other people's opinion and you start living in alignment with who you were truly created to be. Authenticity isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about saying, this is who I am. These are my strengths, these are my flaws, and this is my journey. Too many people are chasing validation, chasing likes, chasing approval because they believe that being accepted is the same thing as being valued. But acceptance without authenticity is empty. You could have millions of people clapping for you and still feel lonely because deep down you know they're not clapping for the real you. They're clapping for the version of you that you pretended to be. That's why so many people, even after achieving success in the world's eyes, still feel empty. They spend so much time building an image instead of building their true selves. To live authentically, you must make peace with being misunderstood. You have to be okay with people not getting you, not supporting you, even walking away from you. That's the cost of originality. That's the cost of originality. The moment you stop fitting into the mold, you will make others uncomfortable. Why? Because when you choose to be authentic, you indirectly challenge the people who are still hiding behind masks. You remind them of the courage they don't have yet. And sometimes people respond to that by criticizing you, mocking you, or distancing themselves. But let me tell you this. If losing people is the cost of keeping your authenticity, then it's worth it. Because what you gain in return, peace, freedom, and purpose, is far more valuable than the approval of people who only love the fake version of you. Look at the greatest leaders, innovators, and world changers throughout history. They were authentic. They were unapologetically themselves. Whether people liked them or not, they stood in their truth. Think about Martin Luther King Jr., who dared to speak about justice and equality even when the world told him to be silent. Think about Steve Jobs, who refused to conform to corporate norms and insisted on blending creativity with technology. Think about Maya Angelou, whose voice carried the pain and beauty of her lived experience and who never hid her truth just to please the crowd. These individuals weren't loved by everyone, but they were respected, remembered, and impactful because they lived authentically. When you choose authenticity, you begin to attract the right people. You don't need a crowd, you need the right circle. And the right people will never require you to fake who you are. They will celebrate your uniqueness, encourage your growth, and support your journey. The wrong people will try to mold you into what benefits them. The right people will push you to become the best version of yourself. But you will never find the right people if you're constantly hiding behind a version of yourself. Authenticity is the magnet that attracts alignment. When you live in your truth, you open doors to opportunity, relationships, and growth that you could never reach while pretending. Now let's be clear. Authenticity requires courage. It's not easy to stand up and say, "This is who I am," when the world keeps telling you to be someone else. It takes courage to pursue your dreams when society pressures you to follow the safe path. It takes courage to walk in your purpose when others call you foolish, unrealistic, or stubborn. But that's the beauty of authenticity. It demands bravery, and bravery is what transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. The pain of rejection may sting for a while, but the regret of never living your truth will haunt you forever. And here's the powerful thing. Authenticity creates influence. People may not always agree with you, but they will respect you if they know you're real. Nobody is inspired by perfection. They're inspired by honesty. People connect with your authenticity, not your image. When you share your struggles, your failures, and your journey openly, you give others permission to embrace their own. You give them hope that they too can live fully, even with flaws and setbacks. That's why authenticity is so powerful. It doesn't just liberate you, it liberates others who see you standing in your truth. But to live authentically, you must first know who you are. Self-awareness is the foundation of authenticity. If you don't know your values, your passions, your strengths, and your vision, you will always fall for the trap of living according to others' expectations. You'll end up chasing goals that don't align with your purpose, pursuing dreams that don't fulfill you, and living a life that doesn't feel like yours. Spend time reflecting on your true self. What drives you? What excites you? What are you willing to fight for, even if nobody else stands beside you? That's where your authenticity lies. It's also important to understand that authenticity is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every day you will face choices. Do I follow my truth, or do I follow the crowd? Do I stay true to my values, or do I compromise to be accepted? Do I express my real thoughts and feelings, or do I silence myself to avoid conflict? Every choice you make either strengthens or weakens your authenticity. You must consistently choose the path that aligns with your truth, even when it's difficult, even when it's unpopular. That's how you build a life that reflects your real identity. Finally, know this, your authenticity is your gift to the world. There is only one you. Nobody else can bring what you bring. Nobody else can live your story, speak your truth, or walk your path. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs originals. And you rob the world of your gift every time you hide who you are. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to validate your work. Authentic, be bold, be you. Because the greatest contribution you can make to this world is to live as your true self, unapologetically and fully. When we talk about originality, one of the most powerful truths is this. Originals understand that growth is uncomfortable, and they willingly embrace that discomfort because they know it is the only path Too often people crave comfort. They want certainty. They want to feel secure in every step, validating every move, and supporting every choice. But what separates an original from the rest of the crowd is their ability to walk into unfamiliar territory without waiting for the safety net of reassurance. They know that comfort zones may feel safe, but nothing grows there. It's only in the tension, in the friction, in the moments where your heart is pounding and your mind is screaming at you to retreat, that transformation truly takes place. Think about every great innovator, leader, or creator we admire today. None of them built their legacy inside the warm confines of comfort. They stretched themselves. They placed themselves in situations where failure was not only possible, but probable. Yet, instead of shrinking back, they leaned into that risk because they understood that discomfort was a signal of growth, not a sign to retreat. An original doesn't just tolerate discomfort. They seek it out, knowing that what feels painful today will become strength tomorrow. This mindset shift is crucial. The world conditions us to avoid pain, avoid struggle, and choose the path of least resistance. But originals flip the script. They realize that resistance is the gym where their mental, emotional, and spiritual muscles are built. There's a universal truth in life. You cannot create something extraordinary while staying ordinary. If you want to stand out, if you want to be remembered, you cannot afford to live where everyone else lives, safe, comfortable, and predictable. That's why originals step into the unknown even when it terrifies them. They show up to the audition without knowing that they'll be laughed at. They start the business without a guarantee of success. They put their art into the world even if it's criticized. Why? Because they understand that comfort keeps you stagnant, but discomfort forces you to evolve. The seed must break before the tree can grow. The caterpillar must wrestle in the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. Growth is never graceful. It is always messy, chaotic, and full of uncertainty. But that messiness is the very evidence that transformation is underway. Most people will quit when it gets hard. They will interpret obstacles as sign they aren't good enough or weren't meant for this path. But originals view obstacles differently. They see them as invitations to become more, not less. They understand that the universe isn't punishing them with difficulties. It's preparing them for what they asked for. If you say you wanted to lead, expect situations that test your patience, discipline, and courage. If you say you wanted success, expect seasons where you're broke, overlooked, and doubted. If you say you wanted to inspire others, expect moments where you feel uninspired yourself. That's the process of becoming. The very things you resist are the exact things sculpting you into an original. The danger with seeking validation is that it keeps you in comfort. Validation feels good, it reassures you, and it strokes your ego. But it also chains you to mediocrity because it makes you dependent on someone else's approval before you take action. Originals bypass this. They don't need to be told it's okay to pursue their dream. They decide it's okay. They don't need applause to keep going. They clap for themselves in silence. And when discomfort shows up, when the money isn't coming in, when the criticism gets loud, when the results are delayed, they push forward anyway because they know that pain is temporary, but growth is permanent. Let's make it real. Imagine a young athlete training before the world knows their name. Their body aches. Their friends are out having fun, and every day feels like a test of endurance. Most people will quit, but this athlete, an original in the making, embraces that discomfort. They realize every drop of sweat is a down payment on their future greatness. They don't need the crowd to cheer for them today because they know the roar will come tomorrow. Or take the entrepreneur who spends long nights working on their vision while others are asleep. There's no guarantee their business will succeed, but they embrace the discomfort because they know that regardless of the outcome, they are growing stronger, sharper, and more resilient with every step. What people often misunderstand is that discomfort doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is happening. You're being stretched. You're being shaped. You're being challenged to expand into the person capable of holding the dream you say you want. If you stay in comfort, you will always remain small because comfort never demands more from you. But if you step into discomfort, you open the door to becoming the person you're destined to be. This is the hidden wisdom originals live by. They don't run from the fire. They walk into it because they know fire doesn't destroy them, refines them. The truth is, every breakthrough you desire is on the other side of discomfort. The moment you stop needing validation to keep moving, you become unstoppable. You begin to see that validation is a temporary drug, but resilience built through discomfort is a lifelong strength. Originals embrace being misunderstood, criticized, and even rejected because they understand that all of those experiences are proof they're on the right path. If everyone applauds you, it means you're not challenging the system. If everyone agrees with you, it means you're not pushing boundaries. Discomfort is not just part of the journey, it is the journey. So when the nights feel long, when the failures pile up, when the doubt becomes overwhelming, remember this is the exact territory where originals are forged. This is where character is built, vision is sharpened, and authenticity is tested. Do not run from it. Do not numb it. Do not wait for validation to rescue you from it. Embrace it, lean into it, and recognize that the discomfort you feel today is the very evidence that you are on the road less traveled, the road that leads to originality, impact, and greatness. That's why originals don't ask for permission, and they don't crave validation. They understand a deeper truth. Growth is uncomfortable, but is the only way to become who they are meant to be. When you reach the point of realizing that you don't need validation, that is when you truly begin to live free. Originals understand that external approval is one of the biggest chains holding people back. Society has trained us from childhood to crave gold stars, grades, likes, compliments, or someone saying a good job. We are programmed to measure our worth by how others respond to us. But the ones who break free from this system, the ones who truly embody originality, realize that validation is not necessary to prove their value. They know their worth exists whether people clap for them or not. The applause is extra. It's not the foundation. Originals live with the conviction that their vision, passion, and calling matter enough without needing someone else to sign off on them. That's why they operate in peace, with a type of inner confidence that is unshakable. Think about it. Many people spend their entire lives chasing validation, trying to look good in front of others, seeking constant reassurance, altering their past just to be accepted. And what happens? They become a version of themselves that isn't true, just a reflection of what others expect. But an original refuses to compromise their essence for approval. They say, even if you don't believe in me, I still believe in me. That's a powerful mindset. It frees you from living in a prison of other people's opinions. If you always need validation, you'll constantly be adjusting yourself like a puppet. But when you live without it, you move boldly, authentically, unapologetically. Originals understand that validation is temporary and inconsistent. One day people love you, the next day they criticize you. One moment they celebrate you, the next moment they question you. If your confidence is tied to that unstable approval, then your life will always swing like a pendulum. You'll never find stability. But when your confidence is rooted in purpose, in knowing who you are, then you're not shaken by whether people cheer or stay silent. Think about some of the greatest innovators and leaders in history. They were often laughed at, ignored, or even rejected in the beginning. Yet they didn't stop because they didn't need validation to keep going. Their belief was greater than the world's doubt. Take Thomas Edison as an example. When he was inventing the light bulb, he failed thousands of times. Can you imagine if he needed validation every step of the way? If he quit because people laughed at his failures, we would still be in the dark. Or consider the Wright brothers. People mocked them for believing that humans could fly. No one validated them. Yet they kept pursuing their vision until it became reality. That's the mark of originality. They didn't wait for the world to say yes. They gave themselves permission. That's what you must do. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to co-sign your dreams. Originals know that the only signature that matters is their own. Validation often disguises itself as love or support. Sometimes even family and friends unintentionally hold you back because they can't see your vision. They tell you to be realistic, to follow a safer path, to avoid risks. If you always listen to those voices, you'll bury your originality under layers of compromise. You'll live someone else's dream instead of your own. Originals are respectful, but they're also courageous enough to walk a lonely road if necessary. They're willing to be misunderstood because they know that the clarity of their purpose outweighs the comfort of approval. That doesn't mean they are arrogant. It means they are anchored. They don't despise others' opinions, but they don't depend on them either. Another truth is this: when you stop seeking validation, you become more powerful. Why? Because you operate from authenticity, not performance. You're not acting to impress, you're living to express. People can feel the difference. When someone is authentic, their presence commands respect without them begging for it. When someone is desperate for validation, their energy feels weak, needy, and unsure. Originals understand that confidence comes from self-validation. They say to themselves, I am enough, my work matters. My vision is valuable. Whether or not anyone claps, I will keep going. That self-talk builds resilience and inner strength. Validation seeking can also delay your destiny. Some people sit on their dreams for years, waiting for someone else to believe in them first. They want their parents, their friends, their boss, or society to approve before they act. But time keeps moving. Opportunities pass. And then they realize too late that they could have started without anyone's permission. Originals don't make that mistake. They act now. They build as they go. They move forward even when others don't understand yet. And eventually, the same people who doubted often end up asking how they did it. That's the irony. Validation usually comes after success, not before. It's also worth noting that validation can become addictive. The more likes, recognition, or compliments you get, the more you crave them. And when they slow down, you feel empty. Originals refuse to live in that cycle. They focus on purpose, not popularity. Purpose is steady. Popularity is unstable. Purpose fulfills you even when no one is watching. Popularity leaves you empty even when everyone is clapping. That's why originals keep their eyes on the mission, not on the approval meter. They ask themselves, am I aligned with my calling? Am I growing? Am I making impact? That is their scoreboard, not how many people validate them. Here's the truth. The need for validation is often rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being wrong, fear of standing alone. But courage is choosing to move forward anyway. Originals know that validation is not the fuel. They are their own fuel. They don't wait for someone to light their fire. They set themselves ablaze with passion, consistency, and belief. That's why they stand out. That's why people remember them. Not because they did what was popular, but because they did what was authentic. So if you want to be an original, stop looking for constant reassurance. Stop asking everyone for their approval before you take a step. Trust your instinct, trust your vision, and trust the process. Remember, the greatest validation you will ever receive is the peace you feel when you're living true to yourself. When your head's the pillow at night, and you know you stayed authentic, that's worth more than 1,000 likes or applause. Live from that place of self-approval, and you'll find a freedom that most people never experience. Originals don't need validation because they already know who they are and why they're here. And that right there is the ultimate power. When we come to the end of this message, I want you to understand that this isn't just another motivational talk, another set of words strung together to make you feel good for a moment and then fade away. No, this is a call to live differently. It's a call to live authentically, to live boldly, to live as the original you were created to be. Too many people go through life hiding their brilliance, suppressing their voices, and diluting their identity just to blend in, just to blend in, just to be accepted, just to be validated. But originals don't need validation. If you've been following along, you already know that the journey of originality is not easy, but it is necessary. And now, as we conclude, I want to leave you with the truth that living as your true self will cost you something, but it will give you everything. Think about it. Every great person you ever admired, every innovator, every leader, every world changer, what made them stand out was not their ability to copy what others were doing, but their courage to walk their own path. It was their audacity to do something new, to think differently, to speak when others were silent, and to refuse to conform to the expectations of a society that often rewards sameness over uniqueness. Look at Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, Elon Musk. Whether you agree with everything they did or not, you cannot deny one thing. They were original. They didn't need a crowd to clap for them before they moved. They didn't need to be validated by the majority before they acted. They believed in something bigger than applause, something deeper than approval. They believed in purpose. And that's the question I want to leave you with. Do you live for validation or do you live for purpose? If you live for purpose, if you live for validation, you'll always be at the mercy of other people's opinions. You'll live and die by likes, by followers, by claps, by nods, by pats on the back. One negative comment will break you down because your identity is built on the shaky ground of what others think. But if you live for purpose, you'll have an unshakable foundation. You'll still hear the noise of the crowd, but it won't control you. You'll still notice the criticism, but it won't paralyze you. You'll still see the rejection, but you'll walk through it because your purpose is louder than their opinions. Life is too short to be spent trying to get everyone's approval. Think about how much time people waste second guessing themselves because they're worried about what others might think. They water down their dreams. They hide their ideas. They keep quiet when they should speak up, all because they want to be accepted. But what they don't realize is that the very thing they're hiding is what the world needs. Your originality is not a weakness, it's your greatest gift. And if you suppress it, you rob the world of what only you can bring. Let me be real with you. When you choose to live as an original, not everyone will celebrate you. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you. Some will even mock you. But that's the price of originality. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable, to be isolated, to walk through seasons where it feels like no one gets you. But that discomfort is the proof that you're not just blending in, you're standing out. And while others may not see it right away, over time, authenticity always shines. Truth always rises. Purpose always prevails. I want you to picture your life like a canvas. Every single day you've been given brushes and colors to paint your story. But if you spend all your time trying to copy someone else's paint, your canvas will never come alive. It will always be a dull imitation, never the masterpiece it was meant to be. The brush is in your hand. The question is, will you paint with your true colors, or will you keep blending into the background, afraid of what people will think? And here's something I need you to hear. Validation is fleeting. Today, people may cheer for you, and tomorrow, they may boo you.
Today, they may love you, and tomorrow they may hate you.
If your worth is tied to their applause, you'll spend your whole life riding an emotional roller coaster that never ends. But when you are grounded in who you are, when you know your identity, when you are rooted in your purpose, you don't need their cheers to keep moving. You clap for yourself. You validate yourself. You get up in the morning with a fire that no one can extinguish because it's not fueled by their approval, it's fueled by your vision. That's why originals are rare, because it takes courage to validate yourself when no one else does. It takes strength to keep walking when the crowd walks the other way. It takes resilience to believe in your gift when nobody else sees it. But that's what makes originals powerful. They are not waiting for permission. They give themselves permission. They're not waiting for the world to recognize them. They recognize themselves. And because of that, the world eventually has no choice but to recognize them too. So as I close, I want you to ask yourself, what part of you have you been hiding? Because you're waiting for validation. What dream have you put on the shelf because nobody clapped for it? What voice have you silenced because you are afraid of rejection? It's time to bring it back. It's time to live loud. It's time to stop shrinking and fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You were not designed to blend in. You were designed to stand out. You were not designed to be a copy. You were designed to be an original. And I promise you this, when you finally stop chasing validation and start chasing purpose, your life will change. You'll feel lighter because you're no longer carrying the weight of other people's expectations. You'll feel freer. You're no longer imprisoned by their opinions. You'll feel stronger because your confidence will no longer come from outside approval, but from inner conviction. And most of all, you'll feel fulfilled because you'll finally be living the life you were born to live. So go out there and be unapologetically you. Don't dim your light because it makes others uncomfortable. Don't mute your voice because others don't want to hear it. Don't shrink your dreams because they're too big for small minds. Lie boldly, live authentically, live as the original you are. Because originals don't need validation. They create it, they embody it, they inspire it. And if you do that, if you truly live as the original you were created to be, not only will your life transform, but you'll light a fire in others to do the same. That is how change begins. That is how legacies are built. That is how the world is moved forward. Not by copies, not by people pleasers, but by originals who refuse to wait for validation and choose instead to validate themselves. Now the decision is in your hands. Will you keep waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to be you, or will you step out and live as the masterpiece you already are? Because the truth is, the world doesn't need another copy. It needs you, the real you, the bold you, the original you. And once you give that gift to the world, everything else will follow. That's the power of being original. That's the freedom of not needing validation. And that's the life you were created to live. So hear me, originals don't need validation. They don't beg for permission. They don't stop because people don't clap. They wake up every day fueled by purpose and let their grind be their proof. If you're original, stop waiting. Start doing. And remember, the world doesn't validate originals at first, but eventually they can't deny them.